Hi everybody, it's Ruth Hull here. I'm a homeopathic doctor and integrative health consultant, and I'm bringing you these videos to help you cope with chronic fatigue, with burnout, with exhaustion, with simply feeling tired all the time. Today I just wanted to chat a little bit about brain fog. It's something we all experience, especially when we have bad fatigue or burnout. For me, when I have brain fog, I simply cannot remember people's names or the names of books I've read, even of places I've been. For some people I know, a lot of my clients say they can't remember where they've left their keys. They just feel like they can't think straight. For some of you, when your brain fog's really bad, you might actually feel like you've got a cloud in your head. Just really, really heavy head, really tired, simply cannot think, cannot concentrate. If you're at school or studying, then it can be really, really difficult, especially when you've got exams and tests. So I just thought I'd share with you a few little things I've learned about brain fog. There's no specific reason for brain fog. There's lots of theories of why we get it. I think the main thing is that when you're struggling with burnout or fatigue, your body is really chronically inflamed. You have this underlying pathophysiological process of inflammation, chronic, low-grade, ongoing inflammation. There's a lot of causes of chronic inflammation. Maybe you've had a viral infection before you got chronically tired, before you got your chronic fatigue or your ME. You probably had something like glandular fever, very, very bad influenza, bad flu. Some people have had a herpes infection. There's quite a few different viruses that can cause chronic inflammation or that underlie it, and I will do a video on that. Other causes of chronic inflammation are if you've had an injury, so if you've been in a car accident, if you've had a big operation, even, for example, if you've had a back operation or a knee operation, something that's been quite invasive and quite debilitating. Any other kind of illness can lead to chronic inflammation, as can what you eat. And this is something you can control. You can't always control an infection that you've had, you can't control surgery, you can't always control an illness, but you can control what you eat. So the more you get to know me, the more you'll hear me going on and on and on about what you eat, because we really, really do get our energy from what we eat. And brain fog specifically can be very, very much affected by what you eat. So I will talk in a few minutes a little bit about what you should and shouldn't eat with regard to brain fog. Other causes of chronic inflammation is often medications, different drugs we're taking, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, all of those contribute to chronic inflammation, as do as does upsetting our microbiome. So if you eat a lot of foods that are sprayed with glyphosate, for example, that can also really, really lead to chronic inflammation. I will do a lot more videos on chronic inflammation. I'm just touching it briefly here because it is an underlying cause of brain fog. Other causes of brain fog, so brain fog is not always caused by chronic inflammation. Other causes are just burnout. You are just absolutely exhausted. If you're one of those people who works in the corporate world and you work, I don't know how people do this, but I do have clients tell me they work up to 80 hours a week. If you are like that, don't expect your brain to work. You really need to jump off that hamster wheel and give your brain a break, because working so long, not sleeping, having a lot of stress, too much to do, just being overwhelmed by things, that will also cause brain fog. So there's quite a few causes of brain fog. You've got the chronic inflammation, you've got just lack of sleep, you've got overwork, overstress. There's a lot of causes, and of course the first thing you always want to do is try and identify what is causing your brain fog. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen with you, just take a few minutes, maybe after this video if you don't have pen and paper close, but take a few minutes to just write down what you think is causing your brain fog. Is it maybe how you're eating, what you're eating? Are you eating too much sugar? are you eating too much gluten? To me, that is a huge cause of inflammation, is gluten. And I will do more videos on gluten and chronic inflammation, but I actually, I've struggled with brain fog for many years. I used to lecture a long time ago. I used to teach. I still teach now, but now I teach adults who are always a bit nicer behaved than teenagers. But I used to teach teenagers health topics, and I used to go in and say, all right, we've got a test today. And they'd say, oh, you never said we had a test. And I couldn't remember if I did or not. They knew that I told them they had a test, but they knew that I had a really bad memory and that I struggled with brain fog. So I couldn't actually remember if I told them or not. And that, for me, I actually had to start writing down. If I said, you've got a test next week, I actually had to write it down, keep a diary, because I couldn't remember. So I got a bit sidetracked there. Oh, yes. Back to gluten. So I struggled with brain fog for many, many, many years. Actually, my sort of chronic fatigue came on after I had my first daughter, and brain fog was one of my big problems. And only when she was about 12 did my husband wanted to give up gluten. He listened to a podcast about how gluten can aggravate Achilles tendonitis, which is what he had, and he was a runner. And he said he's going to just try for 30 days to go gluten-free. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do it with you. I never, ever, ever thought gluten was a problem, even though I work in the health industry. And after about 2 weeks of, we actually gave all grains completely. After about 2 weeks of no grains, this cloud just lifted from my head. It was, to me, it was amazing. Suddenly I started thinking clearly. I could remember things. I could remember names, places, dates. And I just didn't have this cloudy, foggy head anymore. Now I really do avoid gluten, but sometimes I'll go out and I'll have delicious French bread and cheese, or I'll have pizza, and I'm okay. But if I eat like that, if I eat gluten for 3-4 days in a row, always what comes back is that brain fog and almost a feeling of having a hangover. So to me, gluten is a very, very big cause for me personally of brain fog. It might not be for you, but it could be. So just take note, what could be causing your brain fog? Because could it be gluten? Could it be a lack of sleep and you need to sort out your sleep? Could it be too much work? You are working too much. You are working hours that are just bad for you. You are taking on too much at work. You're trying to do too many different things at the same time, and your mind is just overwhelmed. You know, there's only so much we can cope with. Is it stress at home? Do you have too many stresses at home? Are you trying to look after somebody who's ill? Have you got kids who are ill, or a partner who's ill, or a parent who's ill, a sibling who's ill, and you are taking on all their stress, and you are just, you know, burning yourself out? All of these can contribute to brain fog. So try and find out what is the main cause of your brain fog, and then try and make some changes to stop those causes so that your brain fog improves. So I've got 5 little tips of what I have seen with myself and with my clients are the main contributors to brain fog. I've already spoken about gluten. For some people it's gluten, for some people it's all grains, because grains are can be very inflammatory, especially if you already have a leaky gut or an inflamed gut, a hyperpermeable gut. I will do a lot more videos on leaky gut as well, because that certainly can contribute to fatigue. So if it is gluten or if it is grains, you will need to cut those out. You don't have to do it forever. I always recommend to clients that they do it for at least 3 months, and they'll see a big improvement. What else can cause chronic inflammation? If you download the PDF, if you look in the description of today's video, there's a little link to a free PDF of things you need to chuck out of your pantry. Basically, it's clear out your pantry. I've listed the main contributors to chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation can underlie brain fog. So go through this list. You'll see on there it's things like your canola oil, your sunflower oil, gluten, grains, your breakfast cereals, sugar, all those things we all know that they're bad for us. But we often think they're bad for us because they make us put on weight or they give us bad skin, but we tend to forget how they actually affect our brains. One of my favorite sort of writers and people I follow is David Perlmutter. So if you're struggling with brain fog, get his books. He's got some awesome books, and I actually can't remember right now the names of them. You see, brain fog, it just never ends. Grain Belly, if any of you can remember it and put it in the comments, that'll be great. He's got, I've got his books on my bookshelf somewhere. Let me just have a look quickly if they are here. Okay. There you go. Grain Brain. Read it if you've got a brain like mine. And the other one is Brain Maker, and that is Dr. David Perlmutter. Anyway, his books are brilliant. And he really talks about how inflammatory gluten is and how bad it is for your brain. So give up gluten and grains, clear out your pantry. You can use the download the free PDF I've got for you. Another really nice way of coping with brain fog, which is something I personally really do, I find it really helps me, is I have routines. I have a morning routine. I have a routine when I sit down to work. I have a routine at the end of the day, because when things become routines or habits, then you don't have to think about them. It's just one less thing to weigh your brain down. Sometimes I think of our brains as being suitcases, and we just stuff them full of clothes and shoes and books, and we just keep stuffing them full of stuff, and they start to expand and be heavy. And if you can just get rid of some of those things through habits, through routines, through not having to think, it will help with your brain fog. So I have a morning routine. I will do a couple of videos on morning routines because they really, really help me. But I wake up at the same time every day. Actually, my husband also does the same routine. Get up, we meditate, I have a cup of coffee, read a book, do some exercise, but everything's exactly the same every single day without fail. I know it sounds boring, but it does help. It does just alleviate stress. I don't have to think about studying. I read the books I read in the morning are for work, to help me study, to help me learn. I don't have to think about exercise. It's part of my routine. I don't have to think about meditating. I just do it. Whenever I sit down at my desk to work every day, the first thing I do is I open my laptop and I write for a couple of minutes because I love to write. I don't have to think about it. I just do it. So little routines, develop your own routines. Start off with just a morning routine, 2-3 things you do every day that you don't have to think about. It will help with your brain fog. And then another thing that really helps with brain fog for a lot of people is giving yourself 5 minutes quiet time. 5 minutes every day. Put it into your morning routine. That's what I do. Of sitting quietly, no computer, no phone, no book, no podcast, nothing, just sitting and relaxing. 5 minutes, that's all. You don't have to do longer than that. Or go for a walk, but stop feeding your brain, stop putting information in. I see a lot of people, I live in a beautiful place and I walk around a lake most mornings, and so many people have their iPods on, or whatever they're called, their headphones on. And so many people I know listen to podcasts and self-improvement things, and that's great, always feeding their brains, always learning. When you have brain fog, when you have burnout, when you have fatigue, you actually need to make a bit of space. You need to let go, you need to empty your mind. And so get into the routine of every day just having time to sit and do nothing. Be bored. Imagine being bored. It's beautiful. And my last tip for coping with brain fog is to really just be gentle with yourself. Be kind to yourself. So many people have brain fog. We don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to remember the name of every book you've read. You don't have to remember everything all the time. You don't have to think clearly all the time. You can just be you. You can have bad days. Write lists. That helps me. Write lists, have routines, look after yourself, care for yourself, and it's okay if your brain's feeling foggy for that day. You don't have to be a perfectionist. All right. So that's all for now. Have a great week. Maybe during this week you can put into place some of these tips I've given you. If you're struggling with brain fog, number one is look at what you're eating, especially if you're eating inflammatory foods like gluten or grains. Try and cut those out or reduce them. I'm going to do lots of videos on inflammation for you. Number two is look what's inside your pantry. What are you putting in your body every day that is actually adding to that brain fog? And you can find in the description a link to a PDF with stuff you need to just chuck out your pantry. Number three is have a routine, have some habits, just simple routines, simple habits, so you don't always have to think. Number four, my fingers are difficult here. Number four is give yourself every day just 4 minutes, because I've got 4 fingers up, just a couple of minutes every single day to have some quiet time, to sit and do nothing. Just no thinking, no feeding your brain, no putting information into your brain. Number five, be gentle with yourself. Forgive yourself. It's okay to have brain fog. All righty, both hands in the air. Thank you, guys. Have a great week and take care.